I was mucking out the horse stall when they arrived. 7 Apache riders, their faces painted for ceremony, led by a man whose bearing suggested authority. I straightened up slowly, wiping manure-covered hands on my already filthy trousers, and tried not to look as terrified as I felt. In 1877, a white farmer alone on the edge of Apache territory had good reason to fear unexpected visitors. The leader dismounted and studied me with dark, calculating eyes. "You are Samuel Cooper?" His English was accented but clear. "I am," I managed, my mouth dry as desert sand. "I am Cocheta, elder of the Chiricahua. We have watched you. 2 years you farm this land. You take no more than you need. You do not hunt our sacred places. You do not poison the water or burn the land like others." He paused. "You live with honor, even in poverty." I had no idea where this was going, but I nodded cautiously. My farm was poor because the land was harsh, and I was a terrible farmer. Back in Ohio, I'd been a school teacher, but after my wife died of fever, I'd fled west to escape memories, bought cheap land, and discovered I had no talent for coaxing crops from stubborn earth. Cocheta gestured, and 2 riders brought forward a young woman. Her hands were bound, her head bowed. She wore traditional Apache dress, but it was torn and dirty. Even in her disheveled state, I could see she was striking, with high cheekbones and long black hair that caught the afternoon light. "This is Kiona," Cocheta said. "She has shamed her people. She lay with a white trader, believing his promises of love. He left her with child, then abandoned her. She hid her condition, lied to her family. When truth came, she lost the child." His voice hardened. "She has broken sacred laws, brought dishonor to her clan. Our way is exile or death." The woman, Kiona, raised her head. Her eyes met mine briefly, filled with defiance and despair in equal measure, then looked away. "I don't understand what this has to do with me," I said carefully. "We offer third choice," Cocheta continued. "She will live here, work your land, serve your household. This is her punishment, to live among the people she preferred to her own. If you accept, you feed her, shelter her, but she is not free. She remains until we say otherwise. If you refuse, we choose between exile and death." I stared at him, stunned. "You're giving her to me? Like property?" "As punishment," he repeated firmly. "She chose white man over her people. Now she lives among white people, sees what she truly chose. You have reputation as fair man. You will not abuse her, but you will work her hard. She will learn cost of her choices." I looked at Kiona again. She was trembling, whether from fear or cold or rage, I couldn't tell. The alternative was death or being cast out to die slowly in the wilderness. What choice did I have? "I accept," I said quietly. "But I want to be clear. I don't keep slaves. She'll work, yes, but she'll be treated with respect." Cocheta's expression didn't change. "She is your responsibility now. We will return in 1 year. If she has learned, perhaps she can return. If not..." He left the thought unfinished. They cut her bonds and rode away without another word, leaving Kiona standing in my yard, looking lost and angry and terrified all at once. I stood there with my pitchfork, covered in horse dung, trying to figure out what to say to this woman who just had her entire life torn apart. "Are you hungry?" I finally asked. It seemed like a safe place to start. She didn't answer, just stared at me with eyes that burned with humiliation. This was going to be complicated. The first 2 weeks were hell. Kiona refused to speak to me in anything but angry Apache, which I didn't understand. She did the work I asked, but with such visible resentment that it poisoned the air between us. She slept in the barn, refusing the small spare room in my cabin. She ate the food I prepared, but turned her back to me while eating, as if my presence disgusted her. I tried to give her space, tried to be patient, But my patience was tested when I found her trying to run away on the fourth night. I'd heard the barn door creak and found her slipping toward the tree line in the moonlight. "They'll kill you," I said quietly. Cocheta made it clear. "You run, you die." She whirled on me, her face contorted with rage. "Better than this shame," she spat in English, so she could speak my language after all. "Better than being white man's servant. I never asked for this," I shot back, my own frustration boiling over. "You think I want someone here who hates me? I'm trying to give you a chance to survive." "Survive?" She laughed bitterly. "I am already dead. My people see me as traitor. You whites see me as savage. I belong nowhere. I am nothing." The pain in her voice cut through my anger. I softened my tone. "You're not nothing. You made a mistake. A bad one, maybe, but you're human. Humans make mistakes. White man made promises," she said, her voice breaking. "Said he loved me. Said he'd take me away. We make life together." I believed. I was fool. Tears streamed down her face now. I loved him. I gave him everything. He left me like garbage. I didn't know what to say to that. I'd seen it before. White men who used native women and discarded them. It made me ashamed of my own people. "I'm sorry that happened to you," I said finally. "Not all of us are like that. Some of us keep our promises." She looked at me skeptically. "You make promises to Indian woman?" "I made a promise to Cocheta. To treat you fairly, give you work and shelter. I intend to keep it." I paused. "And I'm sorry your people are punishing you this way. It's not right what that traitor did. You were the one who suffered most already." Something in her expression shifted. Not trust, not yet, but maybe the beginning of curiosity. She studied me in the moonlight, this poor white farmer with his failing crops and lonely existence. "Why? You live here alone?" she asked. "Where is your woman?" "Dead," I said simply. "Fever took her 3 years ago back in Ohio. I came west to forget. Turns out geography doesn't heal grief, just changes the scenery." She was quiet for a long moment. "I am sorry for your loss," she said formally, and I heard genuine sympathy in her voice. "I'm sorry for yours too," I replied. "Losing a child, even that early, that's a pain I can't imagine." We stood there in the darkness, two broken people thrown together by circumstance, and something fragile formed between us. Not friendship yet, but recognition. We were both survivors of loss, both trying to make sense of cruel twists of fate. "Come inside," I said gently. "Take the spare room. The barn's too cold at night. You'll get sick, and then where will we be?" She hesitated, then nodded. That night, she slept in the cabin for the first time. The next morning, everything changed. I woke to the smell of cooking. Kiona had risen before dawn and prepared a meal using the meager supplies in my kitchen, but in ways I'd never imagined. Cornmeal mixed with wild herbs she'd gathered, beans cooked with spices that made them actually taste good. "This is incredible," I said, genuinely amazed. A tiny smile crossed her face. "White men cannot cook. Everyone knows this." I laughed, surprising myself. "You're absolutely right. From that day forward, we fell into a rhythm. She taught me which desert plants were edible, how to find water in unlikely places, how to track game I'd never have spotted on my own. In return, I taught her to read English better, shared my books, treated her not as a servant, but as a partner in survival." Spring arrived, and with it, a transformation neither of us expected. My struggling farm began to flourish under Kiona's knowledge. She showed me how to plant in the Apache way, using traditional methods adapted to the harsh environment. She created an irrigation system, using techniques her people had employed for generations. The crops I'd been failing to grow for 2 years suddenly thrived. But more than the farm changed. Kiona changed. The angry, broken woman who'd arrived in bindings became someone else, someone stronger. She sang while she worked, taught me words in Apache, told me stories of her childhood. And I changed too. The grief-stricken, lonely man who'd been merely existing began to live again. We didn't talk about what was growing between us. It seemed too fragile, too impossible. She was Apache. I was white. She was here as punishment. I was her keeper. Any feelings beyond that were dangerous territory. But the heart doesn't respect boundaries. It happened on a warm May evening. We'd spent the day planting, and we sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the desert in shades of orange and purple. Kiona was quiet, thoughtful. "When Cocheta returns," she said softly, "I do not want to go back." My heart lurched. "Why not? I thought you hated being here, hated me." She turned to look at me, her eyes reflecting the dying light. "At first, yes, but you," she struggled for words. "You see me? Not Apache woman, not shamed woman, not servant. Just me. Kiona. Person." She touched my hand tentatively. I have never felt so seen, even among my own people. I covered her hand with mine. "I see you because you're worth seeing. You're smart, capable, kind. You survived something that would have destroyed most people." "The traitor," she said. "He made pretty words but had ugly heart. You make no pretty words, but your heart." She placed her other hand on my chest. "Your heart is good." I knew I should pull away. This was complicated, maybe wrong, but I couldn't. "Kiona, I need you to understand something. If you stay, I want it to be your choice. Not punishment, not obligation. Choice." "And if I choose you?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Then I choose you back," I said. "For real. Forever." She kissed me then, soft and tentative, and I felt something broken inside me begin to mend. When Cocheta returned 3 weeks later with his riders, he found us working the field together. The farm was unrecognizable from the struggling plot it had been. Crops grew in neat, thriving rows. The cabin had been expanded and improved. Everything spoke of prosperity and partnership. Cocheta dismounted and surveyed the scene. His eyes moved from the farm to us, noting how we stood together, how Kiona's hand found mine naturally. "You have done well, Cooper," he said. "The land prospers." "Kiona did most of it," I replied honestly. "She has knowledge I could never have gained alone." He turned to Kiona and spoke in Apache. I didn't understand the words, but I understood the tone. He was asking her something important. She answered at length, her voice steady and clear. Then she switched to English, looking at me as she spoke. "I tell him I wish to stay, not as punishment, as choice. I tell him you treat me with honor, that you are good man, that I—" She paused, took a breath. "That I love you." My heart stopped. We hadn't said those words yet. Hearing them now in front of her elder made them real and terrifying and wonderful all at once. Cocheta studied us both for a long time. Finally, he nodded slowly. "The punishment is ended. You are free, Kiona. If you choose to stay, you stay as free woman, not as servant." Relief flooded through me. "Thank you." "Do not thank me," Cocheta said. "I see now this was not punishment, but gift. She needed to leave her people to find herself. You needed someone to remind you how to live." He mounted his horse. "Treat her well, Cooper. She is still daughter of the Chiricahua." "I will," I promised, "with my life." After they rode away, Kiona and I stood in our field, our home, holding each other. She'd been given to me as punishment, a burden I'd never asked for. But she'd become my salvation, my partner, my home. We married in town a month later. Some people refused to attend, couldn't accept a white man and Apache woman together. But enough came that the little church was half full. The minister who'd buried my first wife smiled as he joined us, seeing something in my eyes that had been dead for years. Hope. That fall, Kiona told me she was pregnant. I held her and thought about second chances, about how the worst moments in life sometimes lead to the best. She'd been cast out for loving unwisely. I'd fled west to escape pain. We'd both been broken. But together, in that harsh, beautiful desert, working that stubborn land, we built something neither of us could have built alone. We built a home. Not just the cabin and the fields, but something deeper. A place where two wounded souls could heal. Where two different worlds could meet without either being diminished. Years later, when our children asked how we met, Kiona would smile and say, "Your father saved me." And I would correct her. We saved each other. Because that's what love does. It takes punishment and transforms it into blessing. It takes loneliness and turns it to belonging. It takes two people from different worlds and shows them they were always meant to find each other, no matter how impossible the path.